Hello, Vibers. Great to see you all. Are you interested in whether or not charity can become counterproductive? Do you want to understand the principle of enabling, the process by which a well-intentioned group, how instead of helping disadvantaged and vulnerable people, actually contribute inadvertently to dependence, disadvantage, and vulnerability? Well, if so, you're going to love this really short edit of a great interview I did with Dr. Gary Johns. Now, Gary Johns is a really amazing man. Until recently, he was the former commissioner of charities. He's a former federal MP during the Hawke and Keating administration. He served in the inaugural board as an inaugural board member of Charities Australia. He's been a member of the Prime Minister's Business Community Partnership. He was in the committee to design the National Redress Scheme for Survivors of Institutional Child Abuse. He's authored a number of books. He's a Fulbright scholar. He's a member of a number of think tanks. The list goes on and on and on. I want to keep this edit short. So let's get into his take. Okay, so you're an Indigenous charitable organisation, and you fund something that ends up being counterproductive. And we know from the recent productivity commission report that came out that almost everything that is being done by the government and by non-government organisations is counterproductive. Like things in every metric we know about for Indigenous stuff, with a couple of exceptions, and arguably, I'm pretty sure one of them is participation in higher education. So that's year 12, but that's probably, arguably, it may be because, and I'm not saying it is, because like I haven't read the stats. I just read this thing just recently, that may be because more people are identifying as Indigenous and completing high school, rather than people who are living in remote, isolated areas, that there's no question in regards to their identity, are completing high school. So that mightn't even be a win in the truest sense of the word.
Well, I can confirm it is not a win in the truest sense of the word. It's simply people who are identifying, who found they had a great-grandmother, great-grandfather of Aboriginal descent. They ticked the box, and they were going to university anyway. They live in the city. They may even claim a benefit, and it helps pay their university costs. But yeah, that hasn't closed the gap one iota. What has closed the gap is those individuals who have integrated into the modern world and got on with it. And most of that happened several generations ago. But what has happened to those who haven't integrated, the gap is widening, because we're now several generations into those who were sitting on collective title outside the real economy, and feeling radically disabled, to use a term from an old colleague of mine. They've got no idea what's going on. I'll give you a little example. I'm just literally looking at this today. I won't name, it's a rather small remote Indigenous settlement in northeast Arnhem Land. There happens to be a cultural festival going on up there at this very point. But it's not actually there, it's just down the road. And a charity is making wondrous claims about how well it's doing in running a preschool, a kindergarten. They have all sorts of names now, but let's call it a kindergarten. So I had a look at the evaluation, and it seems to me they pay mums to go to the facility to do what they already do with their children, except they weren't already doing it. So I do know it's about changing the mothers as well as the kids. Mm-hmm. But the rules around their turning up, or the children attending, are so lax, and this is in the report, are so lax that you could basically say there is no attendance. And then the report says when a child, embraces its culture and it learns so much from kindergarten, etc., then it'll go on to primary school, and then it'll go on to high school, and then blah, 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 blah. And so the report says, look at all these benefits, to which you say, but they're not your benefits. That's if the child does. There was no evidence that these children did. It was just that they had more children attending the preschool than is the average in the region. But you must always look at what is the measure of attendance and who's marking the role. If you're paying the mothers to be part of it, you know what I mean? It may not be true. Then, and they referred to 2 other child minding organisations in this very small community. So I've just rung them up and had a little yap to them. One's government run, one's run by an Aboriginal corporation. So you've got a government run one, an Aboriginal corporation run, and then this charitable one, 3 preschool centres, one claiming greatness, and there are about 40 kids in the entire community aged 0 to 5.
Wow.
3 centres for, so say 40 or 50 kids according to the last census. So like they're having a laugh. They're just having a laugh here. How many centres, how much resource do you need? But there it is. A lot of government money is being poured into this new one, in addition to the government run one, in addition to the Aboriginal run one. And I wish someone would walk in to that community and say, enough's enough. You're all playing games. You're all sucking off the government tit. And by the way, we're really not getting very many outputs here. We're just getting faux outputs. So there you go, Matthew. It's sort of, there's an up-to-date example of madness, because no one will call it out and say, what is the point of this? This is a faux economy. It's just recirculating public money.
And it's making things worse. So I'll release other edits of the full interview in due course. As usual, please like, subscribe, get notifications. I've got some really great interviews coming up, especially including with the Bush poet. And because I got considerable interest from the short personal essay on deaths in custody, I'll be doing a couple more short essays. And you'll notice this week's interview is a little bit early. I promise you, cross my heart, that will not be a course of conduct. I'll be back at 6 p.m. next week. Thank you very much for your continued support. Like, share, and I'll see you all next week.